Four pillars of human optimization. You can change the word optimization out for whatever you want. It can be performance. It can just be, again, about being a well-rounded individual. This model, again, comes from the States. It's from Exos. It's 4 pillars. There's a little bit missing out to this, but that's okay. We'll work it out. So the 4 pillars that I kind of live by, +1, movement, mindset, nutrition, recovery. Okay? Imagine there's a little roof overhead of that. Okay, so these pillars are the foundational support, all right, to our house and to our human performance, human function, all right? Underlining this, imagine that I've just written the word spiritual, okay? Now, spiritual can mean whatever it is to you. You might be religious, you might not be, but think about it as your purpose in life, okay? If we don't have a strong purpose in life, most of this stuff doesn't matter. So for me, it underpins it all, but that's a little bit of a side, next topic conversation. So if we think about how important these pillars are, let's go to mindset. Mindset is the next important one to me, because if we don't have the discipline and consistency to get in the gym and exercise, we're not going to do it, right? So mindset's super important to work through. If we move a whole lot, but we're not actually fueling correctly, and Grace is going to take us down the dietitian rabbit hole later on, we're not going to have enough to sustain our journey, right? So nutrition, super important. Then we jump over to recovery, all right? And the biggest pillar with recovery is sleep. We talk about sleep being the #1 performance-enhancing drug that we're not doing, because most of us, busy lifestyles, if something goes out the window, kind of tends to be sleep. But it's super, super important. If it wasn't important, we would have evolved out of having such long periods of sleep like we do. So if we don't sleep well, we make terrible nutritional decisions when we're going through the grocery store. Then we don't have enough energy in our system to then move well. So there's the pillars, the 4+1 pillars to our human optimization, or just exceptional function, all right? Now shifting across to how that might look in the gym specifically. So this is a small snapshot. We can actually make it a whole lot bigger, but I've just tried to simplify it into a couple of different sections that I definitely look at in particular. And it's how we make a well-balanced individual, all right? If we go back to that leopard again, if it's not agile, it's not going to be able to move in extended ranges to meet its top speed, all right? It'll just be powerful, but it'll never actually get onto the prey. So a couple of different important factors that we like to look at in being that well-rounded individual. First thing that I always start with people is flexibility and mobility. If we don't have the capacity to get into particular positions, there's no point doing it, right? If you imagine a squat, for example, if I'm really tight through my hips, through my knee, through my ankles, I'm not being able to get down into a nice depth position. And what people tend to do, they'll round through their spine, all right, or they stick their bum out like a deadlift, and then they come and see me and wonder why their back hurts. So flexibility, mobility, super important. Then we jump into our energy system training. So anaerobic is our short-term energy system. So think about that as like your high-intensity interval sort of work. You might be on the assault bike, something like that, short and sharp. Endurance is our capacity to tap into our aerobic energy system, all right? Beautiful thing about human beings, if we compare it back to the leopard again, the leopard is going to smash us over, what did I see the other day? It was like the first 5 or 10 kilometers. But the beauty of humanity when we became bipedal is that now we can outlast any species, all right? And that's part of the reason why humanity was able to get as far as it did, because the creatures would just fatigue out and we'd be able to go after it. So energy system training, all right? Max strength and power, to be able to be explosive in whatever we do. It doesn't matter if you're a young, fit, healthy man or an elderly woman trying to get out of a chair, right? Or you're crossing the road and a bus comes and you've got to get out of the way. We all have to be strong, we all have to be powerful so that we can produce the activities that we need in our day-to-day lives. And then endurance, and I think a nice activity that I've really got into lately too is Pilates here. The capacity to sustain that muscular contraction over time, right? So it's good to be able to, pump out 1 to 5, 1 to 6 reps in the gym up here with our max strength, but it's also good for us to be able to continually do that, right? If we think about, I'm going to say triathlon because that's what I just did recently at Noosa, but it then starts to tap into this longer term endurance factor. Okay, there's other stuff outside of that too, proprioception, coordination, balance, stabilization, but that's just a really small snapshot. All right, so one of the phrases I really like to go through for clients is, are you a Ferrari or are you a Fiat? Okay, who wants to be a Ferrari? Have a show of hands, please. Just a couple of people want to be Ferraris. Who wants to be a Fiat? Anybody want to be a Fiat? There's no Fiat owners in the room, hopefully. If we think about what our human body is designed for, it is the most spectacular thing that's ever been designed. So we always want to have a well-running system going through. So that means you've got the right tire pressure going, you've got the right suspension, you've got the engine under the hood. If you don't have the engine under the hood, something is going to give way down track, and that's usually how injuries occur. Jumping through to a quick guide of functional training. Quick question, does anybody think bodybuilding is functional or not? If you're a bodybuilder, they're going to say it's functional, and that's okay, that's their goals, all right? But has anybody ever seen a bodybuilder run? Kind of looks pretty awkward, right? So what we want to be able to do, again, is tie back into that wheel system. What does life ask us to do, all right? And having the well-rounded approach. Now, if we jump again next up, what do we think about this guy? Is he a little bit more of a well-rounded individual? Probably throwing him under the bus here. Probably one of the most well-rounded sports that you will find. Their capacity to hit top-end speed and cover massive distances in a game is kind of unparalleled. But they've also got to be powerful and explosive, right? And they've also got to have flexibility and stay nimble to get down, get up, all of those sorts of things. So a really great example. Showing you how I would go through. This is an example training week. I've tried to put in all the different facets so you can see, but again, it might depend on the individual, all right? I'm a really big fan of active recovery, so that might be things on the rooftop. We've got saunas, we've got ice baths, we've got cryo, we've got everything. Thank you, Leon. I love using it all. Really, really big. I'm sure these guys over here who have played at a top level would know how important recovery is for how much they smash their body, and I'm sure they're going to talk about that sort of stuff later on. But then we get a little bit of a breakdown to our strength and power. Mobility twice a week is generally a good idea. You can bump that up to 3 times. Pilates being our muscular endurance part. When we're working on mobility, flexibility, we can tie in yoga too. And then you might even have a little bit of body weight accessories to go in with the other strength stuff that you do next door. Really like body weight. If you don't know how to use body weight, there's no point adding extra load, okay? Make sure you know how to use what you've got, all right? And then an example little training session here. So if I'm going through with a client, we always start with mobility. Make sure we grease the system well, all right? If you're really stiff from sitting down 9 till 5, or you're just stiff in general in life, you're not going to move well in the gym, okay? Go back to that squat analogy that we had. So foam rolling, trigger balling, bow and arrows, cat camels. We've got a crazy little massage wheel upstairs, which is pretty cool. Primers is about activating the system so it fires really well. So we've got core primers in there for dead bugs. Banded YWs is a movement for the shoulders to get them moving. Side steps is for the glutes. So everything gets fired before then we get into our main sessions here, which is what we really want the quality to go on. Box jumps, kettlebell swings, Olympic lifts, any of those variations for power can be really, really good. And then 2 little examples for a strength session. Day 1, you've got back squat. This is more of what we'd call, so your main lifts are your back squat, your chin-ups, and your rings row. Just imagine the deadlift is over there. That's then more of a pull day, okay? And then this is more of a push day. So squat's a push movement, bench press is a push movement, military press is a push movement. So you can break your exercise sessions down like that. And then if you want to do something for your high intensity or energy system training to finish it off, assault bikes, any variation that you want. You can even jump into the altitude room. And then I always like to go back, finish it off with recovery, bring ourselves back from that sympathetic state to the parasympathetic, because that's when we recover and that's when we get ready for our next session ahead. Cool. I didn't exactly fit that in 10 minutes, did I?
I think you did fantastic. So, guys, just first of all, thank you, Dane.